Alright, here we go. I almost wonder if they design this parking structure for people to go forwards in, so that they have to back out, as if that's any safer than going forwards out, in or out. I don't know. I feel like backing out is more dangerous than going forwards. But why then do they design all these parking structures to back out of the parking spots rather than go forwards through? In fact, I feel like people who deliver mail are instructed to never, ever park in such a way that you have to back out of the spot, and you have to always be able to drive through the spot. And I think there's a point to that. Not only is it faster probably, and they're just trying to get more productivity out of their workers, but it's, I would like to think, a little bit safer as well. It's just an odd thing to me that they would be so hip on designing these things for people to go forwards in. And I look at like how many people, I forgot my sunglasses today, and it is instant regret. And what it is I have a pair of sunglasses that usually live in my car, and I took them out for this concert. And then normally I leave early enough in the morning that the idea of needing sunglasses is at least foremost in my thoughts. And this morning I didn't need sunglasses because it was still dark out, and so it didn't come to, I didn't even think about the fact that I needed sunglasses until after work today, when it was too late to grab them. And so that's been a bit of a disappointment. Hopefully I can get somewhere that needs to be gotten to, and that's really all I can hope for. I am anxiously waiting for when I hit the highway, because I do have things to talk to you all about. More tired than usual because I've been working from 5 to 1:30, or 5 to 1:30 would be the 8-hour shift I'm designated to work if I didn't stay till almost 4 o'clock every day. It's kind of ridiculous and kind of stupid and kind of all of these things, but I'm just very much so over a lot of things that I'm dealing with right now, and I want some level of success in this life. And I suppose that I have accomplished some level of success, and I should be more proud of where I am than I am. It makes me really wonder if there is truth behind the Rolling Stones song, "I Can't Get No Satisfaction." Like, as soon as I acquire one thing and that thing becomes the norm, then my life devolves back into what it always has been. And it's a bit obnoxious, honestly, to be living in the constant state of how I live, but it is also a reality. And it's like, you gotta balance out your personal enjoyment of things with your more, how do I want to say this? You gotta balance out your personal enjoyment of things with the more practical actions that need to be taken. I make a decent amount of money, and I have an incredibly low amount of bills, and still yet I spend more money on a monthly basis than I really should. And so now I need to try and figure out what it is that I can and more than likely will do to get to where I need to be. And it's an interesting and still yet disappointing situation to be in. and the months just drag along, and I can't get any traction going. And this is not at all where this conversation is going. I'm just dwelling on things because I'm stuck driving through town to get on the highway so that I can focus a little more on you and a little less on this. I need to upload videos. I need to cook a meal. I need to do quite a few things, and I have not been doing hardly any of them, and it's starting to take its toll. And still, I will be dealing with all of this, and I will not get paid again until next Wednesday. It's just dreadful. It's like, ugh, I am so over all of this. And I think that when I get to a certain place, I need to just remember where I am, what I'm doing, and how to get back on track. I haven't been pushing my animator to do the next minute of Compression Man because I'm just like, I really don't want to pay for that right now if I don't have to. And so if I don't ask him for it, then maybe we'll be fine. But that also runs the risk of potentially delaying the 5th episode coming out on time because I have been so stingy with my payments. But I also kind of have to be like, I'm caught in this gnarly middle situation. But that's not really what today's conversation is supposed to be about. How much time? I wasted 7 minutes just trying to get out of town. Good Lord. I don't know why it feels so much longer getting out of town than it does getting into it. Like, on my way to work, I don't feel like I spend that much time just driving through town. But on my way home from work, it feels like I spend an eternity doing it. But at any rate, I want to talk about the use of licensed tracks, copywritten music, whatever you want to call it, in movies these days. Because I feel like we're in a modern trend where it is very popular to use pop music or popular music or licensed music, copywritten music, whatever you want to call it, in film today. And I feel like it is rare that you watch a movie where some piece of music that was professionally made for the purpose of just listening to that song was not used in the movie. It's very rare for that not to happen. And I think that the idea being that like music has always been a decent portion of the video enjoyment, like the audio-visual platform. I look at the animations that I make, and they very quickly fall empty without some level of music to bring them all together. So it's like, do I get an ambient music track to just play behind this, or do I leave it be empty? And why does it feel so empty when there's no music playing? Like, generally speaking, in the reality of the world, we don't always have music playing. I listen to music a lot, but there's still plenty of moments in time when I don't have a song blaring in my ear. And I now need to try and understand why it is that I feel the need to have a song blaring in my ear. And so I say all that to say that I don't fully understand what the need is for that. But I do think that it's interesting to explore the idea, like, in the 1970s even, movies were still very musically inclined, in that, like, it was not abnormal to have your protagonist or somebody break out into a song and dance routine. And that is largely unacceptable in today's movie culture. Like, obviously, unless you're walking into a musical expecting people to break out into song and dance, it's not going to happen. But, like, I think about movies because I was watching the Gene Wilder movie, or the Gene Wilder biography, and they talk about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And I don't know that I would consider Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory a musical in the traditional sense. But you have music outside of the Oompa Loompa songs even. Like, it would be one thing if, like, music was just synonymous with the Oompa Loompa characters, but, like, Gene Wilder's character breaks out into a song and dance routine on several occasions. And, like, the older the movies get, the more likely they are to do that. And that was, just at the time, a standard of film, because film and Broadway were still so tightly associated with one another that it was not uncommon for someone of theatrical background to play the part of in the movie and also be singing around too. But that is, like I said, largely gone dead. I think that fad, like, officially died in the 80s. It was probably considered old-fashioned in the 70s, but I think it was dead well by the 80s. I don't know very many movies in the 80s that were hugely popular where you have characters breaking out into song and dance routines. And instead, what you got in the 80s were movies that were hugely popular that used actual music that was playing on the radio to define their scenes. And I think maybe that was a fad that came out of the 80s and blew up into a bigger thing. And so the hope here would be that I feel like, at least, that is what happened. We evolved away from having people perform musical numbers in their movies to having copywritten tracks with maybe like a montage or something added to it instead. And it's an interesting thing to theorize on and to try and understand, because, like, it wasn't something that I fully realized and recognized until watching the Gene Wilder movie. And then I was like, oh, that's right, Gene Wilder broke out into song and dance in the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But I don't, like I said, I would not consider that movie a musical. And there's an official, like, defining definition between musical and classic cinema. And it's like the defining line is, I feel like, the amount of minutes you spend in a musical number. And if you spend, I don't know, 40 minutes of a 60-minute production in a musical number, then it's most definitely a musical or whatever. But it would be interesting to figure out what that defining ratio is and where Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory falls on that defining ratio. And where other videos or songs or movies, I should say, where other movies fall on there. Like that movie that everybody is, the Blues Brothers, does it quantify as a musical? There is a decent amount of music in that movie. I still don't know that I would define it as a musical, though. And so it's just interesting trying to trace it back and be like, okay, so is that then what that was? Is the idea of the musical dying off in favor of using popular tracks, is that where we are in this cycle, so to speak? Is that where that whole idea came from? And I don't honestly know, but it's interesting to me to look at these things and to theorize and be like, well, actually, yes, that's exactly what happened, or no, that's not what happened. At the end of the day, I don't know that it's a trend that anyone has paid enough attention to say definitively, yes, in the 1980s, it became more popular to use radio music in movies than it did to use singing and dancing and classic musical tropes. And at that point in time, did that start this trend? Which, because I feel like now we abuse it. We abuse musical numbers in cinema, and I think that we use it for two reasons. A, once again, the scenes tend to fall flat if there's not enough audio going on. It's a very weird thing how your scene feels empty if there's not a bunch of background noise. And short of just making a bunch of nonsensical noise playing in the background of your character's dialogue, you have to fill it with something. And what better to fill it with than music? That gets people going, that makes them feel like they've really got something, they're really engaged with what's going on. That, at least in my opinion, feels like the reason why they do it. There's obviously the popularity behind it. You hear a song that you know in a movie you're unfamiliar with, and it's immediately a familiar feeling in an unfamiliar place, and you can kind of tie the two together and get some nice clarity there. And it's not something that just any old sound can do. Like, music is unique in that way, especially music that people have a long-standing history with. And so to better understand the music and what's happening there, it's very interesting to try and dissect the reasons behind why are we even using it. Like, if I want to better understand why, or if I want to better understand the why behind the excessive use of copywritten music in movies, I want to understand why, what purpose does that kind of music serve in the movie universe anyway. And I don't really honestly know. It's interesting to me to try and figure out these sorts of things, but that's kind of my ongoing theory on the subject, is musical numbers in the traditional sense of characters on screen actually breaking out into a song and dance routine died out sometime in the 70s, and it was replaced by using popular copywritten music sometime in the 80s. And because you think about these older movies that do have soundtracks that are bolstered with all these popular tracks, and their soundtracks are usually coveted as these incredible, unique things, and they were incredible and unique at the time because most movies at the time were not using a whole bunch of copywritten tracks for their work, if you will. It's not the best way to come up with my words, but like, I think about Happy Days, for example. That show was pretty well renowned for using actual music from the time to try and place people in the time period that the movie takes, or the TV show takes place. And that helps place people where they need to be placed. And I think that wasn't very common back then. I would bet you that Happy Days was probably revered as being revolutionary in the idea that it's 1974, and they're like, let's use old music to try and place people in this older theme. And like, did people do that a lot back in the day? Like, and it's hard because you get to really old Hollywood, like 1930s, 1940s Hollywood, and old music back then is just big band music. And so there's really no difference between that and what was popular then. It just all sounds like old music at that point in time. And so it's really just a very interesting concept that I had on my mind at this present moment in time as I continue to attempt to just crank out videos for the sake of putting out content for you all to watch. I got 16 minutes left on my SD card, so I need to make sure that I clean my kitchen, get my SD card cleaned out, make food, eat food, and then go to bed early. So thank you all for stopping by per the usual. You have a wonderful rest of your day.